Last few videos we've been working on my backyard renovation. I previously removed the wooden deck that was here, that I built with my grandfather, framed and poured a new grade beam garden wall, and last video excavated all the dirt out in the middle in order to get where we are this week. I'm putting in a brand new granite paver patio to start the pretty up phase of this project. On my previous videos you saw me use neck space panels, which I said was the best method of doing a base. Well, that's expensive. So on this one, I'm going to do an open graded base using drain rock and 10mm limestone. I'm doing the whole patio in this video and adding polymeric sand to finish it off. There's no way we'll get unlucky again this year and have it wrecked by a freak rainstorm like last time. Let's jump right into it. If you ever wondered what 7 yards of gravel looks like, this is what it looks like. This is going to be our sub base. I would have preferred to use something like crushed limestone, which is a more angular particle, but crushed limestone right now is almost $100 a yard. Last year it was like 60. This is much more round than I wanted, but I hope that it will be fine. Let's hope. So I'm just spreading this out on the surface just to dry out the surface just a tiny bit so that the compactor runs better on it without sticking. All right, so I did a decent run through. So I'm gonna go get a load of crush and then we will dump a load in here, spread it out, and we'll do another compaction run. And then we'll go from there. If you missed my last video, this is my mini loader, which will load and dump gravel and dirt. Pretty much my favorite toy, or tool that I own right now. It was a lifesaver getting 6 odd yards of gravel into my backyard. Here's my golden rule of base prep for pavers. Compact more and more often than you think you need to do. Since I'm doing open graded aggregate, there's really nothing to compact. Imagine hitting rocks together. That's pretty much what I'm doing here. But rock does tend to consolidate, and with a cheaper import compactor like this, and let's face it, like the one you'll probably rent, I am compacting often. It's about every 2 inches of rock that I lay down. I've marked around the perimeter how deep this base should be so that I'm only adding what I need to. I don't want to haul this back to the pile afterwards. I almost got it stuck. I just about got it stuck. These conduits need to get put in here. All right, to keep the conduit in temporarily, I just drove in a concrete screw, both sides, to hold it until I bury it, and then the uppers will actually thin set in. But that's how that's gonna go. Okay, these are all in here. All the corners. And that goes out to where the power is gonna come in. So these can now be all buried. All right, so as you can see, it's raining, so we're paused here. This gravel actually locks up pretty well once you compact it, so I think it will be okay at the end of the day. We have probably another 4 inches to put in until we run a string line to set our final grade on everything. Once I had enough gravel in the pit to bring it decently close to the final level, I ran a few string lines. These helped make sure I wasn't adding too much gravel and made sure it was as close to the proper level as possible, because if each layer goes in at the right level, it makes the next layer much easier. We're just getting this topped up and then I'll be on to the next step. I'm just finishing off fine-tuning the level by using a 2x4 and scraping gravel. As I scrape it, I look at the string lines, if they pop up or are lifted by the gravel. If they pop up, I'm low enough. If they are still buried, then more gravel needs to be scraped down. Things aren't going according to plan. One is this base is not super ideal. If you pack it enough with the packer, it does lock up. It's not great. It's kind of fragile. You have to be careful when you're stepping on it to not scuff your feet. I've never done an open graded base before, but I have used crushed limestone and it works a lot better than this. It was supposed to be more angular than this, but that's neither here nor there. Number 2 is the weather is supposed to be absolutely horrible for the next 2 days. So instead of getting the stone chip on top of this today and starting to lay patio pavers today and tomorrow, I now need to get all of this done, get it leveled, and then throw a tarp on it because it's supposed to rain 4.5 inches in the next 24 hours after tonight. Because this is a little bit of a bathtub, there is some drain for water to get out at the backside from the base perspective. The scupper holes that I drilled yesterday won't drain water until the actual patio grade is in because they won't be high enough. And I don't want this backing up with water and then shunting back against the foundation. So what we're gonna get done today is we're gonna get this gravel bed 2-level all laid out. We will come back next week with the stone chip. We'll get this as packed down as hard as we can. We'll get it tarped off. We probably have another hour of work this morning, and then we'll tarp this off in prep for leaving it for 4 days, because, you know, we can't just finish a project. All right, so we're just getting this to final finished grade. Well, final finished subgrade. Just trying to get everything as even as possible. Any imperfections that we have here, we're gonna sort out with the stone chip. So we're finished for today. It moves around a little bit if you shuffle, but I think once the 18 by 18 patio stones go on top of it and the stone chip, it's not moving at all. So we'll see how this weather goes. Okay, our torrential downpour is done. We have Tarp City here so that this just didn't become a bathtub. So today we picked up some of the stone so that we have that available to us. And I also picked up the crushed stone that's gonna go on top of this, the 10 mil crush limestone. First job for today is to get this cleaned off, and then we're gonna go and get some of that crushed stone back here with some conduit laid out so that we can screed a nice flat surface for the tiles to go on. We'll put some tiles out and maybe we'll get done today, maybe we won't. I don't know how much time I'm gonna have to work. All right, what I've got is some of this conduit. So it's 3/4 inch conduit, so it's almost exactly an inch tall. We're gonna lay it up to our marks on the side that we made for where grade is gonna go on here. We're gonna get the tops of this set to the level all the way across. So we're gonna have 1 bar here, 1 bar here in the middle, and then 1 bar here on the edge. That'll allow us to screed the whole thing out. And then we're gonna use these to slide the level on top of to screed the whole thing with the aggregate. And that should give us a dead flat top. We're about 1 inch for this top layer. I may space it up a little bit more with some gravel, but it should be decently good. So let's see it. All right, I'm gonna do the one at the back of the house first. It's probably gonna be the hardest. Now, I gotta check this for level. So if this is unlevel, what I want is I want it high at the 2 edges and then sloped in the middle, because that'll bring it more towards this entrance over here. So I'm gonna call this good here. Now I'm gonna take the other chunk and set it in. I need quite a bit of digging here. Get that set. The edges here set right on top of that edge for our subgrade. We've leveled all the way along here. They overlap. Then it goes all the way over to this side where it's a tiny bit low over there. I'm gonna tackle the middle and the outside in the same way. And then I should be good to continue with the sub base. So the eagle-eyed viewers will notice that these are quite clearly not conduit. You're right. I realized that I had a bunch of steel bar stock left in my garage from a past trailer project, and they were 20 feet long. So I used them instead because I didn't have to go buy more conduit. Now, why should you use conduit in the first place? 3/4 inch EMT conduit is 1 inch in outside diameter, so it is the perfect height to allow a full 1 inch bed of sand or chip for the final bedding layer if you just lay it directly on the subbase. The round tube also slides really nicely when you go to screed it out. It's also galvanized so you can use it multiple times without rust, or use it for actual conduit later. It's also decently cheap. All right, I'm gonna get the front one in and then I'll be back. The 3/4 inch is also rigid enough that it doesn't flex into divots when you lay it down on the ground. I'm just using the bar stock out of convenience. If I didn't already have it, I wouldn't have gone and bought it. Okay, all the screeding bars are in. I'm gonna do a quick level check on them to make sure that they're all sloping nicely, but they're lined up on the edges and they're flat. Well, they're level across. So that should mean that it's a good slope here because I sloped the walls. Now I am going to do a quick screed pass to see if there's any of the stone that needs to get moved out of the way. I imagine I'm gonna kick some of it up. It doesn't stay terribly compacted. I think once this stuff is on, it'll be a lot better. So now we're gonna start getting in this crushed stone. This might be hard to move around because it's pretty darn wet. Because just like we got 5 inches of rain, so did the gravel pit. Setting the bars is the picky part. Now I'm just adding the stone chip, dragging the level on top of the bars to spread it out and level the chip. I'll do this multiple times, compacting in between to get a base that won't settle at all. This is like spreading concrete. I need some of this to dry out so that it's easier to screed. All right, I'm gonna try and do a compaction run on this to see what this does. This round rock is just horrible because the sand, or because the stone chips are so wet. As I screed, it's pulling up the round rock as I go. So even if it is beneath, it's pulling all of them up as I try and pull it forward. So what I may have to do is spread all of the sand out, or all the rock chip out, and then come back afterwards once it's dry and do it. This is a little bit of a mess. That worked. It's now like concrete. What it did is it drove all the round rock into the ground. Once I've compacted once, a final thin layer of chip is added, and then it's ready for stone. Oh, it's so much easier with the deeper depth. So I think I did this in the other video. If they say 1 inch, they probably mean 1 inch is the easiest, because I'm about 1 1/4 here and it's super easy. Monsieur Crawl, crawl, crawl. Okay, so it's warmed up a lot out here. So I need to now pull the screed bars, fill those in, and then we're onto stone. All right, let's see how easy these pull. There's one out. Well, let's take all of them out before I fill. Being pretty careful not to step on the areas that they came out of. Well, that worked a lot better than I thought it was going to. So now what I need to do is get more of this stuff and fill in these edges. They held up pretty well. They look almost like concrete. Nice square edges. So I'm gonna fill these up now. The whole thing is now screeded out. It's all compacted. All of the rail divots, for lack of a better term, have been filled back in. It is now raining, so I am going to pack up what I have out here. So remember last video that I did where I said that you couldn't possibly install pavers on anything but those next base paver panels? Well, we're gonna put it on this, which is an open graded base, which is supposed to be the new best thing. So we're gonna see how this goes. I'm assuming it's gonna be a little bit more finicky because it was a little bit more of a pain in the butt to put down. All right guys, it's the big morning this morning. We had a bunch of rain last night, so I didn't do anything more on the patio. So today we are going into the main event, getting all of this tile that we picked up onto this patio. So we have our nice granite. That's gonna go down on the patio. So I gotta run some string lines, get some squares, figure out how many pieces go where, cut a bunch of stuff. So it's gonna be an action-packed, exciting day. We have hypothetically 2 days without rain. So hopefully I'm gonna get it sanded today or tomorrow, and then it'll have time to dry and not get sodden with water in a freak rainstorm like what happened at Mom and Dad's house. Today what we have to put down are these 18 by 18 flamed granite tiles. They are just beautiful. They're a crystal white, a nice flamed finish. And we got them from one of the stone suppliers that we've used for our countertops before, and they were a screaming good deal. All right, I'm gonna use my laser measure to measure a couple places on the patio to see if it's how square this wall ended up being. I wanna start off the house and work my way out. 144. This one is 143 and 5/16, so I know that outside wall bows a little bit, so that's okay. So we're happy that way. I'm gonna go check the far corner for square, because I'm hoping the far corner is square. And we'll do the far corner out to the wall and then this way. So the way that I'm gonna do this is I'm gonna set this stone and then the far stone, and I'm gonna run a string line between them. And then I'm gonna use that to set the first course. So this tile is 100% not staying here. That gives me one here, one here. Now we're gonna stretch a string line across this. So we know that corner is good. So what we're looking for is that it just touches the edge of that tile. So I put a mark on the wall where it needs to go. Right, there we go. I have a very sloppy string line, because tape doesn't hold a string line very well. That is the generic line I'm gonna use. Since there's no integral spacers on these tile, I'm using some of these tile spacers. I'll put them on top, douse them with sand, and then pull the spacers. Hopefully these will work, or I could just leave them in. As I said to Dad, this is gonna take me an hour to set this first row. Hopefully it goes a little bit faster. So this is the thing that I've always thought was a problem with this stuff, is how do you keep it even? All right, well, I'm just gonna screw around with this and I'll talk to you guys when I figured it out. Okay, so I figured out how I'm supposed to do this-ish. Because I have some rock against the back wall, I need to clean it out. I flatten the area, I remove any of the kind of big stones that are kicking around, dump those into a bucket, get this mostly flat, bring in a stone. If there's a crappy edge, it goes against the back, put it in place, take a wood block, because I have no idea where my mallet is. Shift it around a little bit to the line, and it's slow, but by doing it that way, I get a completely level joint. So the way this is working is it actually moves a lot of the stuff around when you compact it with the hammer. So I imagine that once we put all the sand on it and run the compactor on it, it's gonna seat all these 100% underneath, because this stuff never really sets up. My string line broke and it wasn't doing a very good job anyway, so I'm gonna use my level instead. What I did is I went and pre-scraped this row using a level. So what I'm finding is they're going down with quite a bit of lippage because of all the rock in it. But if I hit it fairly hard, it redistributes all the rock underneath it. Now that the first row is in, it's just a race to lay tile. Normal patio stone is way easier and less fussy to lay than granite is because it has spacers cast into the tile itself. Adding the spacers was time consuming and super annoying. But I love the look of this stone. It's really, really nice. I have to keep reminding myself that these are pavers and not tiles, because some of them I'm like, it needs to be tighter and better laid. What's nice with this is I'm finally at a point where the tiles are just staying put, so I can actually lay this way faster. I think some of the tiles that I have aren't exactly an inch thick, and most are, and there's a couple that are under. So I had one that was really, really bad height-wise. I just pulled the tile out, put another one in. It's dead flat now. No adjusting, no anything. So there are a bunch in here that are thinner. All right, so we're at a bit of a standstill right now. My assistant, AKA Dad, is going to pick up another pallet of the stone. We have enough to finish, I think, but we're gonna maybe need like 1 or 2 extra tiles, and I have to get them sometime anyway, so might as well get one of the pallets. But we needed to get a tile saw because my little tile saw I thought would do fine for this, and it won't. So I'd always wanted to buy a used professional one, and I didn't pull the trigger on that. I thought that the table saw that I had would work, but it doesn't cut all the way through the tile. So Dad went to go rent one. So we're gonna rent one for today to finish this off. My last row here is 17 inches. So it's an inch lower than the tile itself. And this needs to be really close if at all possible, so that it goes into the scuppers properly. So he's going to pick that up, going to pick up the stone, should be back in the next little bit, but it only took me about an hour and 15 minutes to finish more than half the patio. So thoughts on this method? I thought it would be a really big pain based on the first row. The first row took me like an hour and 45 minutes to do one row. I think the major part of the reason that first row was so bad was I didn't get a good compaction on that, and I also didn't get a good grade on it because it's beneath the doorway and it's beneath the drip edge. What I found is that by booting these into the gravel the hardest that I could, and then moving them forward and then moving them back, that was the best to get these seated well. I'm actually kind of glad that we have the round rock beneath this because it allows it to move around. Anything that I really stomped on, shifted the ground around and seated really super solidly. There's no hollow sound under these, but it wasn't all doom and gloom. I thought that at the end of this, I was just going to be swearing a huge amount over this base. Now, do I like it more than the next base? To be honest, no. I like laying over the next base more. This does lay nicely. It's a lot of effort. I might be doing it wrong. The gravel yard may have given me the wrong gravel. Like in the comments, let me know, for those of you who do this all the time. Is this stone chip the right gravel? It has a lot of fines in it. Maybe the ones without would have worked better. So I don't know. You let me know. Let me know what you think. I'm going to reserve judgment until I run the compactor over this and see what it does. I have a feeling it's all going to level out. So I'm being a little bit picky. We're easily going to finish today as long as my tile saw gets back here pretty quickly. So I spent an incredibly frustrating afternoon yesterday fighting with this saw. I could not get it to cut straight at all. It was cutting like 3/8 of an inch off on the diagonal. We talked to the people at the rental place. They couldn't figure it out. We couldn't figure it out. We went through all their troubleshooting steps. Couldn't get it. We arranged to return it, and then I thought, well, try a brand new blade. And when I took it off, their blade was bent, quite bad. So I threw on a new blade and now it's cutting straight. Hopefully get this patio done. I'm getting sick of this project. I need to get this done. It's still off a bit. This was a mammoth feat, but we are done. All of the tiles cut. That tile saw, even with the new blade toasted itself right away. I'm wondering if it's not the best quality, but whatever, it doesn't matter, we got done. So now what I need to do is I need to do a little bit of cleanup around here, get all this stuff off of the patio. Have to go back to the corners, make sure all my grout joints are okay, make sure all my tiles are at the right heights. We'll put some sand down on this, tamp it, pull all the spacers, tamp it some more, put more sand on top. It's going to be a multi-step process because I don't want my grout joints getting screwed up, because these spacers aren't the best. They've like a bunch have gotten kicked out. They don't hold very well. So what we're going to do is just get this quickly cleaned off. We'll get into it. It doesn't look like it's going to rain. I have about an hour until I have to go rescue children from school, and then we should be good. We're going to have a full width single piece threshold here for the step. That's going to go in later. This is all the bad cuts from the saw. There's some grinding dust I'll have to vacuum up before I start. All in all, this looks pretty good. It'll look better once I compact it. Whoops, but that's going to be covered. This is looking pretty good. I'm not super happy. I have really skinny tiles here, but what I might have to do is when this full size threshold goes in, I might glue those to the threshold. Back into here, on my fiddly cuts. I rounded that one, which was a much better idea. This one I cut square, which is not such a good idea, but I'm planning on building like a little topper for this anyway, so it doesn't really matter. I'm gonna get this cleaned off, get the sand down on it, do some manual tapping, which will settle the sand a little bit. Then I can compact it. I'll sprinkle it before I go get the kids, and I should be good to hypothetically go. As a pro YouTuber, I should intuitively know when my mic is off, right? I haven't gained that skill yet. This is Polymeric Sand. It is a special sand available in a few different colors that has a water-activated adhesive in it. Once it's activated, it essentially acts like tile grout that is flexible. So it shouldn't crack with tile movement. It's quite a bit more pricey than regular sand, but I think well worth it just from the fact that you can get different colors. Earlier, I explained the plan, but here's how to actually apply the sand. First thing is to make sure there's no moisture at all on the tile. If there's any dew or moisture at all on it, the adhesive will gum up and stick to the face of the tile, which you do not want. Also, make sure there's no rain forecast. I got rained out immediately following Mom and Dad's patio last year. I can tell you that it severely degrades the quality of the sand. Theirs is having issues because of the amount of rain we got immediately following it. Why am I talking about this? Well, it's a thing called foreshadowing, or crappy luck. Adding the sand is really easy. Dump it out and sweep it around. You'll see the spacers getting pulled up everywhere by the burn. These are really a giant pain in the butt. Get pavers with integral spacers, or larger tiles, like some of the porcelain pavers. They stay put where you put them. These are 1/8" joints, so the sand fell in really easily. Once all the sand was swept in, I could pull all the rest of the spacers that didn't come out with the broom. My fingers were raw after this step. All right guys, we're back. This time with sound, because I figured out my mic was dead. I have all the grout joints filled now. They're filled to about 1/8 inch at the top. I have another bag of sand that I had to go get because I ran out. Now my job is to compact this, which is gonna settle the sand underneath the pavers. It's gonna settle the pavers into the sub base. Usually you would do that before you lay the sand and after you lay the sand, but we have what we have because I need to take the spacers out. I'm gonna get on this right away. It looks like it's gonna rain in like 45 minutes, even though it's not supposed to. So I need to get this done so I can get it watered in, and then I'm gonna probably shantytown tarp this to the top of the house out. I think that's probably my best bet. So I'm gonna get on this right away. All right, I had a pad that goes on the packer. I don't know where it went. So we're gonna do this old school way that I was told was good, which is just a sheet of plywood. This process really solidifies up the patio. It did also do what I'd hoped and leveled out all the paving stones at a slight lippage. The plywood is put down here to protect the surface of the paver from the metal plate of the compactor. Okay, so that did a ton. It dropped the level of the sand by about 1/8 inch. So you can do that again, and it looks really ugly behind us. So I don't know whether I should just finish packing this, give it a good sweep, and leave it, and come back and top this up tomorrow. I'm not sure what I should do here. All right, so it's not looking terrible. This area was the area with the most of the water in it. That white tarp leaks because it's been in a lot of rainstorms, which is a little bit frustrating too, because this is an area where I wanted to get a little bit more compaction on to get these even. So what it looks like it's done is it has set up the grout in these cracks. That side's all still, it's nice, dry and powdery. This stuff, you can tell by the color change, and you can tell by how the tiles are that it got wet. I'm really lucky that I did compact it though, because what it did is it pushed all the sand down. So the sand is all like 1/4 inch to 3/8 of an inch beneath the surface of the paver. So I think if I let this dry out, put another layer over top of it, and then wet it properly, I should be fine. Here's where we're at. It's been a couple hours. It's dried out nicely. This area over here never did get water on it at all. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna give this a poke with a screwdriver to see whether or not this is hardened up at all. But based on my experience with this stuff, what it will do is it will get like gel-like at this point. So if I can see if that's gel-like, I think we're probably fine. I have enough space that I can just put more sand over top of it because I have about 3/8 of an inch. Man, can I not catch a break putting this sand in. I've now done it twice, and both times I've had torrential downpours on it when it was supposed to be clear for 3 days afterwards. What I'm probably gonna do is put this in as fast as possible, wet it, and then give it as much time as I possibly can to cure before that rain happens. And then I'm gonna try and tarp it right before the rain because this sand needs to dry out. So once you wet it, it activates the glue in it. And then that glue needs to actually, like the water needs to evaporate out of that glue for it to dry. And then once it's dry, it's completely impervious to water. I don't know if you can even see the speckling on camera. This is what happens when you get rain on polymeric sand. You can end up with these speckle marks where it activated the glue and then the glue dries on the surface. I was super lucky that I had swept this off really, really, really well because what that does is it minimizes the amount of material that's on the surface of the tile. When you wet this down, you wash off the surface of the tile so the glue migrates to the joints. But when you have rain, it can be an unmitigated disaster. All right, I know I said this was future Matt's problem, but this grout joint really annoys me. So I'm gonna open this one up. There we go. So when you're calculating the amount of the sand you need to use, the sand manufacturers have calculators on their website. So you can go on, type in what you have, what your depth of tile is, what your grout joint size is, and it will give you how many bags you need. Now, that tells you the minimum you need. You should order at least one more or two, depending on the size of your patio, because this one said I only needed about 4/5 of a bag. I used an entire bag doing my first pass, and that doesn't even count the compaction that I would need. So I'm gonna need about 1.5 bags when I finish this. Shove sand under this drip edge. So ideally what I think I would do another compaction run over top the entire patio once I have this on. The issue that I have is a bunch of the sand has set up, and what I don't want to do is break it apart. So I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to sweep another layer in. I'll probably go around and lightly tap each tile to settle it, and then I'll flood it. So let's get that done. Okay, so these are filling up nice. They say that you want the sand 1/8 of an inch from beneath the surface. So 1/8 of an inch down. I found when I do this that if you do a little tap or compaction run on it, what'll happen is if you fill it full, it will consolidate down that 1/8 of an inch for you. And what I'll do afterwards is go back and take all of these feathery pieces off, because if you spray water over them, they turn into concrete. Well, gel, but concrete gel. I like these 1/8 inch grout joints. The one I did for Dad was they were about a 1/16 of an inch, sometimes even less. And what I found is that the sand would not go in the joint. So on Dad's, we had to put piles of sand down and compact on top of it to drive it down into the joints. It didn't work very well. There's still lots of voids, but those were the precast joints from the Paver manufacturer. So I like the 1/8 inch minimum joints a lot better. There's a lot of sand left over. So this is now sanded again. I need to go around and do a sweep off to get all the feathering out. And make sure the grout joints are as low as they're supposed to be, which should be pretty quick. I'll just do that off camera, and then I will come back to you guys when we're ready to water. Okay, as a quick overview on how to do this, you choose 200 square feet, which is almost exactly half of this patio. Quickly sprinkle everything once, and that's just to activate the sand so that it doesn't leave the joints as you're doing the heavier application. Spray over it once, and then go back over that for 30 seconds with water. If water starts accumulating, you stop. It also says, which I just read, that you start at the bottom of the slope, which is good advice, so that hopefully it has the most amount of time to set up before all the water flows down to it. If it starts foaming, you stop immediately. And we'll see how this one goes. Mom and Dad's went fine for the watering stage. Maybe I don't have to tarp this. We'll see. It looks kind of nice out. I'm using this fancy hose because it's one that doesn't leak and has a shut off. So it's actually quite nice in that regard. It says to evenly wet it. Oh, I guess I'm supposed to start at the bottom of the slope. I didn't even pay attention to my own instructions, guys. So I would call that evenly wet. Now, 30 seconds. I'm doing only about 150 square feet, so I think I'm gonna do 20 seconds. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, I'm breaking my rules, 23. All right. Now, some of these look a little dry, so I'm just gonna give that guy a blast because he had some sand sticking up on the surface. It's good and wet. Half done. That was quick. All right, other half. All right, let's try the same thing. 1, 14, a sprinkle for extra good measure. You can blow this off. They said if you have a really textured paver and you're worried about it, I think what I'm gonna end up doing is once this sets up, there's a bunch of staining on it because it's stone that's been sitting at a supplier's warehouse for 15 years. So I'm probably gonna come back with a wire brush and wire brush the tops of these tile to get some of the staining off of it anyway. So I'm not gonna worry too much about it. It is draining nicely into my scupper holes. Look at that go, it works. I have stainless steel pipe to go in these to make it all pretty like, but it's looking pretty good right now. So it's draining from both sides into that scupper hole. Look at it flow. Yay, it works. That's a good slope from there. We went from absolute disaster to I am really happy with this really quickly. So that's a little bit of a positive, and there's mosquitoes everywhere. I'm happy with this. I think it turned out okay. Maybe even good, but at least okay. I'm really tired. I am going to go edit some videos. I'm really far behind on the YouTube side. We'll check how long this needs to set for. I will come back later and show you it all dried off, or me frantically tarping it when we're gonna have a torrential downpour. All right, we are 48 hours later. I threw the tarps on right before a giant rainstorm because we don't have any luck whatsoever, but we did manage to get 48 hours without any rain, or at least significant rain, getting on the patio. I shantytowned the whole thing like you do camping, and now I'm gonna pull off the tarp. And I totally didn't pull off the tarp earlier today and then put it back up for this video. All right, so let's see how this did. This was the area that got the most amount of water on it when we had our flash rainstorm. So let's check out how hard this is. You can shove your finger and it does not move at all. It's not spongy. It's very, very, very hard. So I think overall this patio is a huge, huge, huge success. The initial rainstorm made some of my work not as great as I would have liked it to be. It probably has like a 32nd of an inch lippage on some of the tiles. What I found with this base, doing the drain rock plus all the gravel on top, is the base really moved around when you compacted them. So if you did a really good job of laying and hitting and compacting, the tiles laid really, really, really flat. And then when you went over it with a plate compactor, what it did is it actually settled them all to the same level. I think probably because what it was doing is moving the base around underneath all of them. I don't know if that's how it's supposed to go or not. Maybe mine moved around too much. I'm not sure. But what it did is it gave me a really nice and level patio. Rain-wise, everything drains into the scuppers. We have a little bit of a low spot at this corner. We're done. I hope you enjoyed this. It was a different style of patio base than I've done before. I'm still on the fence whether I would do it again. It does work. I'm happy. Everything worked the way I wanted to. Next time, we're gonna get into this wall and we'll pretty it up and figure out what we're doing. So if you made it this far, like and subscribe. It really helps out the channel. I'm trying to get to 1,000 subscribers so that I can make 30 cents off of YouTube ad revenue. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and see you on the next one.